Hello. Your audio.
There we go. I was.
There you go. Heidi.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
Just a quick heads up. We put it on the website. We put on the consultation form, but we started recording all the consultations and the training sessions and stuff, and we put it on YouTube. Okay.
Sure.
And I'm sorry. What was your name, sir?
I'm Misael.
Misael. And who do we have? An Akita.
Yes.
All right. Can I see the guy?
Yeah. Giani. He is right there.
Oh yeah, look at that guy, the big boy.
Hey, Gigi.
All right. Beautiful.
He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, Akita. My favorite dog breed is a Japanese Akita. Yeah, so my logo is actually an Akita.
I know.
Yeah.
I saw it. I was like, hey, that's an Akita.
Yeah. So I read real quick over your form. It seems like general obedience stuff, but that the occasional reactivity towards dogs and children.
Yeah, so he actually is very aggressive towards dogs.
Okay.
Not
But
like
it's
that's
not
super
consistent.
aggressive. It's not
Yeah.
consistent. It's only with big dogs, because with little dogs, he doesn't care.
Sure.
And again, like the non-consistent. So if we've gone out for a walk and we've been out for 15, 20 minutes, he's over it. He'll just focus on his walk and he'll pay more attention.
Sure.
But it's that like I have a backyard and I have a clear, like it's a see-through fence. And I live right by a park, so a lot of dogs pass, and that's when he'll react, he'll bark, he'll run towards the fence or something.
Okay, sure. That's normal, and I'll explain that.
Okay.
It can be addressed, but nothing out the ordinary there. So you start a walk, 15, 20 minutes in the beginning. If you see dogs, bigger dogs, reactivity.
Probably.
Small dogs essentially just doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Is he neutered?
He's not. He's actually getting neutered Friday.
Okay, how old is he?
He's 2.
Okay, so he's had him for a bit. Did you keep him like so he would finish growing and stuff, or?
Yeah, so we actually, so he had one of his balls didn't descend. So the vet kept telling us to just give it a little bit just to see if it comes. But if it doesn't, then we need to like schedule an appointment for him.
Sure.
So it never came. So as of Friday, he has an appointment to get neutered.
Okay. Were you intending on keeping him intact, or if it
No.
wasn't for no? Okay. Anything else? Like how's he with people?
So as of recently, he's gotten so much better with like adults. He'll just kind of sniff them, see who they are, probably bark here and there. But then he's over it. However, with children, I think it's because we never brought him around kids. The only kid that we actually have in the family is my little brother, whom he grew up with. So he has no problem with my little brother. But when it comes to like kids, he barks at kids.
Sure. Is this outside or like even inside?
Both outside
Both.
and inside.
So if like let's say you took him to a friend's house and they had inside the house and they had kids inside the house, he would bark there as well? Or okay. Any age range where he doesn't care anymore?
No.
Not really. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ever notice the kid's energy? Like let's say you have a 5-year-old, right? They're calm. Will he still bark?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I always when we took him to the beach one time with my family, and on my side of the family there's lots of kids, and the kids just were doing their own thing, maybe I don't know 150 feet away, like playing in the sand, and when he would notice them, he'd bark at them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did he ever like move towards them, or did he just stand and bark?
He walks towards me, like he gets away from them.
Oh, okay.
He moves
Sure.
away from the kids, yeah.
Sure. Okay. So that's not a bad thing, actually.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Oh, I've read that it's an Akita trait. But with the when walking, he pulls on the leash, but he pulls to go towards like a tree to every pull. Eventually, after a couple minutes, he stops doing that. But as we're walking, like he's gonna pull towards every pole, towards every tree on the way.
That's just a dog thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so much an Akita. An untrained dog, if it's been allowed to just pee and sniff every little thing, they'll continue to do so. Yeah, because they're all about the nose, right?
I guess another thing when we do take him on walks, sometimes when I speak to him in a certain tone, he'll listen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then sometimes he'll just tug at the leash, and I know that's because he's untrained.
Mm-hmm.
That can be worked on, but he does do that a lot. So I don't know if that means anything.
Do you mean like a firm tone of voice?
Yes.
Okay.
So he actually only listens to a very firm voice whenever I'm like addressing something with him.
Mm-hmm.
I have to firmly call him.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's about it.
No, that's pretty much it. That's it.
If you have guests come over, fine. Or can you have guests come over? Because I know, obviously.
As long as no kids. Yeah, that's fine.
As long as they don't have kids or bring their kids, yeah.
Sure. Okay. How does he respond? Like if somebody were to knock, does he bark and then when they come in, he sniffs them and he walks away?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had him since he was a puppy?
Yes.
So since 2 months or older?
I think since 2 months, yeah.
2 months? Okay. Has he had any previous training?
No.
Okay. Have you done any training yourself?
Yes.
What have you done?
So he listens when I call him. When I tell him to wait, he'll stop.
Okay.
When I tell him like patience, like when I'm giving him a treat,
Sure.
he'll wait. Whenever he snatches, I correct him when he snatches, and I tell him to be patient. So I think the only commands that he knows is wait, patience, and come here.
Okay. And what do you walk him on? Like a flat collar, a harness?
On a collared with the retractable leash.
A regular flat collar?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So how'd you guys find us?
Instagram, right?
Instagram.
On Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it like a promotion or like an advertisement or something or?
I'm the one who's been doing research for a while for training, and
Sure.
I think they looked up Akita training, and you were the first one to come up, and then I looked up Instagram, and you had great reviews and all that stuff.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. So before reaching out, because I know you said you're doing research, once you found me or us, did you do research on my company and how we train and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we are very familiar with the way you guys train dogs and all that stuff.
Okay, cool. So I'll explain everything, why it works, how it works, and then realistic expectations. Your case here is pretty standard, nothing out the ordinary, in my opinion.
Okay.
So like the barking at dogs or, people or kids in the yard is normal. It's territorial behavior. And you might, people think, well, Jesse, like that's my neighbor and they walk by every day and they see him every day. I'm like, yeah, but dogs are very primal and they just think like, this is my square, my territory. And I'm letting you know that if you come into this territory, like I'm a potential threat, right? So he's really just like protecting the space. It's not bad.
Right.
But, people don't understand, like you understand that it's your neighbor, he doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can see them every day for his life as he grows up. Doesn't matter. The whole children thing. The reason why I asked if he saw a calm child versus like an active child is sometimes because children, their energy can be like high and they're like the way they move is kind of erratic and stuff like that. That many dogs are how do you say, kind of wary of what that is. When you said when they were further away, like he would bark and move towards you.
Yeah, like he would lean towards me, like.
Yeah, I pick up a couple of things there. One can be protecting you, for whatever reason. He thinks they're a threat, and he's moving closer to you in case. Or it could be insecurity, where he's barking and telling him, hey, stand back, and he's moving closer to you because you empower him.
Oh.
Okay. So that the children thing, the addressing the reactivity isn't difficult. Okay. What would be difficult is socializing him with kids so that he would like kids.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll talk more about that later. The pulling on the leash is just obedience, proper training. The firm voice is not uncommon. At some point, you might find that even the firm voice doesn't work because
sometimes
it's
a little stubborn.
Yeah. So when I do training, I don't yell or scream or do firm voice. I just use my regular voice.
Okay.
Okay. And then that's because the training methods that we do empower what we say so we don't have to scream or yell. Okay. You know, if the dog's super far away, that's different, but you shouldn't have to yell at your dog if they're right next to you.
Right.
Right.
So the way that we train, we use prong collars and e-collars. Okay. Have you guys done any research on those tools?
Well, you know what? When he was a puppy and we were trying to teach him how to walk on a leash, when
Sure.
we would go on walks, we would use the prong collar.
Sure.
So we've used that before, but we did read I know that Martha told me to read up a little bit on the e-collar and get familiar with it. So I did a little bit of research, which is fine.
Sure. So when you have a big dog like an Akita, not only big but thick coated, prong collar is better than anything else. Harnesses make dogs pull more. It also causes more reactivity because it causes agitation due to the pressure on the chest. A gentle leader, which is the one that goes over the mouth, and there's a leash that you may have seen that one's better. It gives you more control, but when it comes to addressing negative behaviors, like let's say barking at children, it doesn't really help there. Okay, so it gives you more control, but you're not able to correct him. The prong collar, the spiky one, is meant to mimic a dog bite. Okay, that's why it looks that way. So most people will put the prong collar on their dog and just walk the dog thinking that the collar is going to fix the problem, right? But you have to use it to teach him what to do and what not to do, okay? Which requires, you know, if he starts barking at a kid, we would correct them by yanking the leash or pulling it very quickly to create a biting motion to tell them we don't want him to do that. The problem is, since he's got that really dense coat, a lot of times it's ineffective because the coat protects him.
Right.
So the next thing, and the best tool in my opinion, is the e-collar, because it gives me off-leash control. If the dog has thicker fur, it is a factor, but as long as we can make contact, it doesn't matter. Physical strength doesn't matter, okay? And I'll explain more about the e-collar in a moment. There's no confrontation, you know, because when you yank the leash, like let's say, because we had an Akita here a couple of months ago, and he would only tolerate being corrected by his family, okay? If I corrected him, he'd go after me, okay? Because it was too confrontational. Akitas are a powerful breed, and they don't take shit from nobody, okay? So, and this is something I always tell people, you know, when you're getting a dog, you don't just look at the look or the breed, because they'll say like, oh, that's such a pretty dog, I want it. I'm like, yeah, but you have to do the background, right? So Akitas are known for being very tough, quote unquote dominant dogs, territorial, very much like family kind of oriented. So I told the owners, don't worry about it. Like, I don't care if the dog doesn't like me correcting him because I'm not his owner. Right? I'm like, anyways, you're the ones going to be correcting him at the end of the day. Now, if he has a problem with you correcting him, you have to decide whether or not you're going to deal with that, because that's an issue, right? So the e-collar, though, when I would work him with the e-collar, because he didn't know where it was coming from, there was no conflict. He was fine. Okay, it was just the prong collar. So have you guys ever been to a physical therapist or a chiropractor?
Yes.
You have. Have you ever had the TENS or stim therapy?
No.
Where they put on the muscle and it moves the muscle?
Oh yeah, and it shakes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Okay.
tingle.
Correct. That's an e-collar.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so most people think it's electrocution, or they think it's like a taser, you know? It's not, okay? They use the technology on humans, and in my opinion, it's more refined, because the human version, there's still risk of electrocution. If you have a pacemaker, they have to be careful, and there's risk of electrical burn, okay? Not with e-collar.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, there's no risk of electrocution. It's fully waterproof. If the water does get into it, it just shorts. It doesn't work, okay? It doesn't cause burns. And we don't have to worry about dogs. I don't think there's pacemakers for dogs, but I've worked with dogs with heart murmurs, with seizures, with cognitive disorders, all this stuff, no problem. Okay. Because it's not electrocution, it's a contraction. Okay. So the reason why it's effective, or these tools are effective, is because, let's say, what's your dog's name?
Giani.
Giani. Let's say with Giani, a, a, a person he doesn't know and he feels unsure about were to go and try to touch him and he wanted to stop them, what do you think he would do?
Probably bark.
Bark, okay. And let's say the person didn't listen to the bark and kept trying to touch him.
Yeah, he would probably walk towards them or like run towards them. Or no, actually he'll hide behind me or move back.
Okay, so that's his natural response, right?
Yeah.
So for another dog, if that happened and they didn't like it, they bite the person.
Right.
Okay, they escalate. Or like, let's say Giani tries to mount another dog to dominate or whatever, and that dog doesn't like it, they turn around and they bite him.
Yeah.
Okay? They're not being aggressive. They're just saying, you can't do that to me, right? So humans, we can say, hey, get away from me. Dogs don't have that, right? So they might growl, they might bark, but if you ignore those signs, they might bite, right? And some dogs don't, right? There's no guarantee, right? It comes down to confidence. So for a human, if someone were to back me in the corner, you best believe I'm defending myself. Okay, I have no problem with it. Other people won't, right? They'll take it, and that's personality type, right? So the e-collar is what I say, I call like a bite on a button. Okay, when you press it and that contraction happens, it's like you're biting Giani. Okay, and we have to find what's appropriate to Giani and what's going on within that moment. Okay, so most people think when we do e-collar, you know, we put it very high, we come inside and we're just like zapping the dog and we're making them yell. That's not how it works.
Right.
Okay, so at the physical therapist or the chiropractor, when they use the TENS unit, they start low and they work their way up. Okay, and then you say that's too much, and they say okay, and they bring it back down again. Right? It's the same thing for dogs. I don't know what Giani's number is going to be. It could be very high, it could be very low. He tells me. Okay, once I find the appropriate number, then we start working on the training. Okay, so we're trying to find a number that he's going to respect and listen to, because if you're too low, it's going to be ineffective. He's going to ignore it. Okay, and when we've been training all our clients at Oz Park, which is in Lincoln Park here in the city. I just learned from a client that it's the busiest park in the city. Okay.
It is,
Yes, you got a lot of dogs, you got people, you got skateboarders, bicyclists, segways, strollers, baseball games, everything's going on there. Okay. And we're training there, and the dogs are being, the obedience is being applicable in that situation. We're not in a quiet room where there's no distractions. That's not realistic. We're outside in the real world, and we're getting the results because of e-collar. Okay. I had a client do prong collar because they had a puppy. They had a 6-month-old golden doodle, and the couple was like 60, 70 years old. They're on my YouTube channel. The dog's name is Smokey. And the first 3 classes, they're yanking the dog all over the place, right? He's not listening. Even though he's a puppy, he's not listening. So finally I tell him, like, to switch to an e-collar. It's gonna make your life so much easier, okay? And they switched to e-collar, and within 1 class, he was way better. Because they didn't have to worry about how hard they could yank him, you know, because the remote goes as high as they need it to go. You know, so it didn't matter that they're 60 or 70 years old. All that mattered was they had the appropriate power for their dog.
Right.
Okay. So it's the same thing here with Giani. You would get off-leash reliability. So if he got off the leash, you can make him come back. You're going to get reliable obedience in terms of, I don't care if you're at the park, if you're at the lake, if you're at the beach, you know, if you're at your friend's house and stuff, if you tell him to do something, he's going to listen, or you can make him listen. Okay. When it comes to correcting behaviors, like let's say barking at kids, you can correct that. You can also stop the barking in the yard if you don't want it as well. Okay, so like if he's in the yard, and I'm not a fan of dogs being left unattended in the yard because one, they escape, two, people steal dogs, you know, three, if something happens, like a person reaches over and he bites them, you know, because they're intruding the territory, you're held liable. So there's a lot of factors there. But let's say, you know, you throw him in the yard real quick just for a moment while you get to go to do something, and he starts barking, and you're like, oh, I've known he's barking at, but I'm going to stop him. You can stop him from inside the house. Okay. When it comes to correcting them with children, if we were to try to counter condition that, which means instead of not liking children, we try to get them to like children. When he barks at them, you would correct that, right? Now there's no conflict.
Right.
He doesn't relate it to the kids. He doesn't relate it to you. He just thinks when I bark at kids, this happens. What happens if I don't bark at kids? Nothing happens. And then we can work on, like, you know, using treats and stuff like that to see if he will warm up to them.
Right.
Okay? In terms of obedience, it's pretty easy. Obedience is always easy, okay? Because it's, as long as, if I'm doing, the reason why I do only e-collar is because my standard is very high in terms of control, and it's the only tool that gets me there. Okay, everything else is then a waste of time. Okay, so then most places go, well, you have to do food, and then you got to do prong collar, then you got to do e-collar, right? And I understand it's a business, so they want to make more money, but at the same time, it's actually not necessary.
Right.
I'm training a puppy that's going to come in 1 week. He's 3.5 months, and he's already going to do e-collar. Doesn't matter. Okay, people think it does, but it doesn't.
Right.
And then people, they aren't motivated because then they're doing the treat stuff and it's not working, or they start the prong stuff and it works a little bit, but then it stops working. Then they don't want to do training anymore because they're like, oh, this isn't going to work.
Right.
But with e-collar, it's going to work right away.
Got it.
Okay. Did you guys watch any of our YouTube videos?
So you know what? I actually saw a lot of the ones where you guys are training, I believe, in the weekends, where you guys all meet up at a park and all that stuff. But that's pretty much as far as I got.
Yeah. So those videos they're all e-collar except for the ones, the prong that I told you about that puppy. So I always encourage people, go watch them.
Right.
You know, especially the first class, because that's, nobody knows what they're doing. The owner doesn't know, the dog doesn't know, and you see, it's uncut, unedited. You see it work from beginning to end. And then if there's a lesson 2, you can watch lesson 2, and then you see how it carries over to lesson 2. Okay, it's very transparent. The thing with Giani, though, is just that fur.
Yeah.
Okay, it's I've worked with, again, Akitas before. I've worked with thick-coated dogs. There's special probes that they do make to make contact, but I'm gonna just let you know now, you know, should you go forward with training, you might struggle with that, okay? I've had clients in the past, like with Samoyeds and Huskies and stuff, where they'll shave a part of the neck underneath where no one can see, and they'll put their collar there so that they have consistent contact. And then other people.
Yeah, so with him, he actually wears his collar all the time just because he has his tags. So whenever, you know, God forbid something happens. But he has a little mark where his fur kind of like splits.
Comes
you
in.
Shave that down.
You could, you know, like what I would do is first try it out to see how it works. And then if we're having trouble with connection, you can, like a little patch, a little square patch like that big, you would just shave it. And then this way, when you put the box there, you have much better contact without having to move it around all over the place. Yeah. But we always play it by ear. My experience has been, it's a pain in the butt. Every now and then I get a dog where we're able to get consistent contact. But you know, it's really just see what happens. In terms of length of time and cost, it really comes down to how much control you want. Okay. So you have a number of choices here. The way I approach stuff is I teach what I know you need and want. And I don't care about the stuff you don't want. Okay. You have 3 choices. We have 6, 9, and 12-week programs. It's 1 day a week, so 6, 9, or 12 classes, and they're an hour. with the 6 classes, what I would expect to be able to cover is leash walking or the pulling. That's no problem. The dog reactivity. So the leash walking should theoretically address the dog reactivity on the leash. Okay. If it doesn't, it's okay. It just means that we have to correct him for his behaviors. Okay. And I have a dog on my YouTube channel. His name's Finn. There are 2 of them are named Finn. And they're both reactive. But the most recent one that we put, it's class 1. He was very reactive. And she just had class 2 on Sunday, 180, night and day. Yeah. So it gives you an idea of kind of what to expect. Okay. Not every dog is the same, but you know, when it goes how it's supposed to go, that's how it looks. Okay. So it's typically 2 classes for the heel. If needed, 1 class for the reactivity. I would suggest that we teach recall, which is come when called.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's typically 2 classes. So that's around, 4 to 5. And if it's 4 classes, we could use the last 2 like for how we would work with kids. Okay. Now the kids thing is going to take.
I think my biggest thing that I'm really like concerned about is we can't take him to like a dog park because he's very like he can't socialize with other dogs.
Sure.
So as far as like how many classes would that take, and how could I do a better job of that, like socializing him more, or is that just something that's going to come with behavioral training?
So when it comes to dog park, that's a maybe. Okay.
Well, it's not even just about the dog part. For example,
So you cut out. Hello?
I can't hear you.
There you go.
Got it? Okay. So, like I was saying, we moved into a new place, and my neighbor's bully was outside, and he ran, like, charged towards the bully and, like, started just basically getting into it. So I think for me, the children thing and that is really important.
Sure.
So how many classes would take to fix the aggression towards the dogs?
Okay, so when it comes to behavior work, okay, there's no guarantee that we can do a 180 all the time.
Got it.
Okay. Realistically, the kid thing would be easier because you can tell the kid what to do. Okay, you can control it and you can say, approach, stop right there, be calm, here's a treat, put your hand like this, wait for Giani to take the treat, then you're gonna pet him like this, right? You can do that. So then for Giani, since it's very controlled, we may be able to build trust, and maybe he'll end up liking them because he's like, man, every time I see kids, if I bark, I get corrected. But when I see them, they give me hot dogs and turkey and bologna and cheese, right?
Got it.
So that's how we do that, okay? But I cannot make him like kids, okay? That's on him. We have exercises, but it's on him.
Right.
Okay? But there's a number of answers, okay? So it's like, if we didn't get this part, well, then there's this part, you know what I'm saying? It's just what the owner is comfortable with. When it comes to dogs, the neutering may potentially help. It'll take a month for his testosterone levels to dip. But if that charge, if it was testosterone based, meaning like he's coming in machismo, like very macho, right? That's like the word I know. It's because he's being tough, okay? If he's trying to mount the dog to dominate them, that should subside because it's testosterone based. Marking on everything should also subside because that's testosterone based, okay? So once we get him under control, I have exercises, again, to socialize Giani with like a friend's dog, okay? That's more realistic than the dog park. Because at the dog park, there's every type of personality. You might have, and there's dogs that shouldn't even be there, right? And if you take him in and he's bum rushed by 20 dogs, he might go, holy crap, and kick into aggression thinking he has to defend himself.
Got
You know, it happens. It's not uncommon. It happens at daycares. It happens at dog parks because of that immediate rush. Okay, so I can help you get how do you say to that point, but you would have to. It's not just like one class and fix it. It's I teach you, and then you keep trying to address it.
Right.
Okay. In terms of how long, excuse me, 1 second, close the door here. We have a barking puppy. Just tell my employee real quick. So if you wanted to tackle all of that stuff, I would imagine 9 classes.
Yeah.
Okay. Correct. Okay. So the way it would look with that is 2 classes on the heel or the leash walking. That's always the foundation. Okay. Then the next class would be if you wanted to start tackling socialization. You know, if you have a friend that has a dog, I would say like coordinate with your friend and then we would meet up. Okay. And I would show you. So like for humans, when we make friends, like you don't just meet someone and then trust them with your life.
Right.
Right. Like I have guys that I've known for more than half my life. And I love them and I treat them as brothers. And I would trust them with my life. Right. And there's other guys that I've only known for a year. And I respect them and we have a good time, but they're not the same. Right. So for dogs, when we're trying to build that relationship, you know, the longer that they know that dog or the more occurrences they have with that dog of like positive experiences, you might see them open up and go like, oh, we're buddies.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's more realistic. We definitely don't want him lunging or charging dogs when you go outside. That's not acceptable. That can be addressed, but that's real simple. It's just don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just correct those behaviors. And then if you want to work on the kid thing, you know, that could be class 4. Because once you have the knowledge, it's just practice.
Okay.
If you have someone that you could practice with every day with the dog thing, that would most likely happen very quickly, right? With that dog, not all dogs. So then you have to find another friend. So when I've had clients in the past, where they themselves were like, I would never trust my dog with another dog. Okay. And I'm like, that's fine, but your dog is trained and you have control. And I think your dog has potential. And then 2 years later, they'll call me and say, hey, Jesse, he's got 5 dog friends now. You know, it just took them a long time to get their confidence.
Got it.
You know, because you have a big dog too. That's the other part of it is you don't have a small Chihuahua or a 25-pound dog. You have a large Akita, right? So that's a factor. And you also want to think that people think once a dog is friendly or friends, that it's going to be perfect. And that's not how it works. You know, like people, like we get pissed off, right? We get angry and stuff like that. Am I cutting out? What about now?
Oh, there.
Well, it must be the Wi-Fi cutting in or out or something.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, so like with people, like, you know, I've gotten into arguments with my friends, right? But we're human, so we talk about it. We don't bite each other,
Right.
you know? So 3 years down the line, Giani maybe one day gets pissed off by his buddy and decides to become aggressive, you know? Like people freak out and then they like, oh my God, my dog's not friendly. Like, no, I'm like, they got in an argument, you know? So we're not that different. You know, we get nervous, dogs get nervous, we get fearful, they get fearful, we get anxious, they get anxious, we get angry, they get angry. It's the same stuff. Okay. So once you see it that way, it's much easier to kind of interpret it because people are like, oh, the dog should always be 100% friendly all the time. I'm like, no, that's not realistic.
Right.
Okay. And then after we get that down, I would go into recall. So it'd be 2 for the leash walking, maybe 1 for your friend's dog, another one for kids. Then we start back with the obedience with the recall. It's typically 2 classes. That's now 6. And then the last 3, we could like, hey, Jesse, it's been going well, you know, walking with the other dog. He's starting to warm up to him. We have another dog. Can we try it with that dog? And you do another session, right? Otherwise, if you're doing really well, and it's like, oh, we didn't know that it would go this well, because nobody knows. Giani's the one that knows. Is then we would cover like more obedience.
Okay.
Okay, so I wouldn't say like, well, you only wanted this, so I'm going to stop it here. Like we'll keep teaching whatever you want to learn, but I prioritize what you're wanting. Okay, the more you want to cover, the longer it's going to be.
Okay.
If your main concerns are just kids and dogs, then you're in that 6 to 9 week realm. Okay, the first 2 classes have to be heel, and then after that we can teach, you know, the behavior stuff. You start practicing it, and then we go back to doing the obedience stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Questions?
No, it's pretty straightforward, honestly.
What I would suggest for you, I highly suggest, is that if you know you want to move forward, is that you start muzzle training if you have not done it already.
Yeah, so do you recommend any specific muzzles for an Akita? Because I've actually been looking, and a lot of people use the one that, like, the little thing that goes over the mouth that comes with like a leash. I don't know.
Not a muzzle.
Oh, then which one would you?
That's I know that's a gentle leader. That's what I described earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, a muzzle will cover the mouth entirely.
Okay. Now, do you recommend that I start with like walking him with the muzzle, or like any activity outside of the house with the muzzle?
Yeah, so what you would do is we have some videos that we'll send you. I just made some myself.
Okay.
For a dog, but I have others that I send to people. Sometimes it's fast, okay? No problem. A lot of times it takes them a long time for the owners, right? So I always tell them I'm like, start it now, right? Like, if you don't train with me and you train with another trainer, I don't care. But if that's your goal, you're gonna need a muzzle no matter who you use. Okay. So the reason for the muzzle is it keeps the kid safe in case something happens. Okay, because you're gonna be pressing now. You're gonna be pushing them to the point where the kid's gonna touch you, right? So then if with that muzzle, and I have a very strict specific exercise that I cover this with, it just helps everybody feel better. You don't have to worry, like if something goes wrong, very small chance that he's able to make contact. It makes the parent feel better. Otherwise, no one's gonna wanna volunteer, right? They're gonna be like, why do you want my kid to pet your dog? Like, that's always the first question, is everybody will pet your dog without permission when they want to, but the moment you say, please pet my dog, people go, what, why, right? Always. So the muzzle will benefit you there. With the dogs, if you're trying to socialize, same concept, right? Because let's say you introduce him correctly and he's great. And you're like, oh, wow, Jesse, like, we thought it was gonna be terrible, but he just warmed right up to that dog. And I go, right, but this is just one moment. So like, let's say you go to your yard, maybe you're sitting at a patio and Giani is sitting at your feet, and that dog walks across the yard to come to you to say hi. That's very different, okay? Because then he might become protective and say, back away from my owner.
Got it.
Okay, so people assume like, oh, this is great, it's a positive experience, and they just apply that to everything. And I go, no, there's so many other like maybe a Giani's drinking water, and that dog comes to drink water too, and he's like, back away from my water, you know? So the muzzle, the one that I recommend, will allow him to drink water. He'll be able to take food, and he can wear it for extended periods of time, okay? The one drawback to this muzzle is that, because we had to apply it to an Akita that came here, the one that came after me, because he stayed with us, is that it rubbed his fur off here, okay? Because we couldn't remove the muzzle. Yeah, and then it grows back, right? So he had a little like Mexican mustache for a couple of weeks, but it grows back. But that was because he wore it 24/7 for like 3 to 4 days, okay? Giani, for you, would only wear it when you would need it. So we'll send you videos on the muzzle training, and you want to start that today. There's also information on how to find the correct muzzle. Just so that you know here, the brand I recommend is Baskerville. Yeah, it's like basket, but with an R, Baskerville. And you can get them on Amazon. You will find cheap knockoffs. You want the brand of Baskerville.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. And it'll tell you to measure here. Okay, I think it's here, and then the length of his nose. And if you have like that soft measuring tape or whatever, you do that, and you look at the size, and it'll tell you size 5 or size 6. I think he's probably going to be how much does he weigh?
97 pounds.
It's probably going to be a size 5, but double check, on the site, measure him. Some of my clients will buy, if it says size 5, they'll buy 4, 5, and 6. So this way, when they get it, sometimes it can be a little off. That they'll just return the ones that they don't want, and then keep the one that they need. So they're not delayed. And then in terms of the training collar, he's a big boy. Okay. The collar that he needs just recently got discontinued. Okay. There's still some on the market. I'll do some digging, and I'll send it to Maria to send to you. She'll provide you with all the information. If for whatever reason you cannot find a specific model, I'm already kind of working on a backup plan in terms of how to address this, because the issue with large fluffy dogs is, one, if they become aggressive, you have to think about the body size, the contact that we have through the fur, but then the adrenaline that's pumping and the state of mind that the dog is in. Okay. That's why we need more power. So worst case scenario, what I would do is, if you can't find that collar, there is another model that I would recommend to you. And it's a cheaper, it's the same brand, it's just less expensive, collar that's not meant for his size. Okay. We would see how he does. If everything's going perfect, then we're good. If not, you can get a second collar and pair it to the system. So it's 2 collars going off at once. Okay. So to balance it out, I'm using a weaker collar, not meant for him. See what happens. And if we need more power, we get a second one, but now it balances out because it's a weaker collar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one that I would recommend to you is the full power that he would need.
Okay.
But we've had 2 or 3 clients recently that needed that particular model, and it's been sold out everywhere. So, questions so far?
Are you going to email us the collar information?
Correct.
Cool. Okay.
We'll email you the collar information. And then in terms of cost, the muzzle is easy. It's like $35 maybe. You'll want to get a regular leash. You have a flexible, you said?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the flexible, it could break if he pulls too hard, which can hurt you and hurt him. And it gives you very little control. So you just want a regular 6-foot leash. Okay.
Okay. So should I start training him with that leash now rather than the other one?
No, you can do what you're doing until you start, but that flexi leash gives you the least amount of control. Okay. You may need to also use a prong collar in conjunction with the e-collar. Mainly, like he's 97 pounds, right? And he's very powerful and low to the ground. That physically, if you like turn a corner and he sees a dog and it happens, right? The prong collar is like the immediate control, while you try to use the e-collar to settle him down. Okay, so we'll see how that works, but that's a potential because he's such a large dog. The collar that you would need runs about $352 with tax. Okay, it's a 1 mile range, fully waterproof system, and they last for years. Okay, so it's an investment, but like I've had mine 8 years. So, yeah, they last a really long time. Every now and then the battery might die. You just go online. If it's under warranty, they'll replace it. If it's out of warranty, you go on the website and then you look up that particular battery. It's like $20. You order it and then you replace it and you're fine. Okay. In terms of the training, the 6-week program is $825, and then the 9-week program is $1175. Okay. And then we would meet at Oz Park. Are you guys in the city? Or where are you guys from?
So yeah, we're in the city. I actually live on 63rd.
Oh, so you south side?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
So,
15-minute drive, I think.
okay. So very realistic environment. Okay. It might be a little stressful in the beginning, but once you get it, like if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere is what I tell people. Okay. Also with the programs, with either one, you get 2 Zoom sessions. Okay. We added those Zoom sessions in for I want to, so that when we meet in person, we do a lot of training that we can only do there. Okay. So then if you have any questions, you just set up a Zoom session and then we can talk about your questions over this and you don't waste your in-person time.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So that's complimentary. We did that because of COVID. I no longer handle the dog. Okay. We don't touch the dog. We coach you through everything. Okay. We will send you videos to help you to know how to work everything, how it works, so that when you show up, we can just start training. And if you have trouble with anything, with maybe barking at dogs, you'll just email me and say, Jesse, we need help here. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, he's still barking at dogs. And I'll go, watch this video. And it'll be another client who had the same issue, but now you get to see how we go about fixing it. Okay. Questions?
As far as the payment, I know that Maria has said, is it all up front or is there a payment plan or how does that work?
For the 6-week program, it's all up front because it's the shortest one. But if you do the 9-week one, it's half down. And then 2 weeks later, quarter, and then 2 weeks later, another quarter. Okay. So if it's 1,000, it'd be 500, 250, 250. Okay.
But then I know that the deposit, the $100 from the deposit goes towards the classes, right?
Correct. You would get the full 135 because you did a Zoom session.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you get the full 135 for this, and then Maria will take care of that. Now, just so you know, if you don't pay your invoice, we don't show up.
Right.
Okay. We had in the past where someone I showed up, and then they stopped paying. They got what they wanted, and then they just stopped paying.
What?
Right.
Oh no.
So I'm a business. I have employees to pay. Yeah, it happens, right? So and it's super. It's only happened twice in 10 years, but still, it sucks.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah. So other than that, there should be no issue. We've been doing really well with this approach. If you watch the videos, we've only had one client not get the full results of the training, but it's because they weren't doing 100% of the training. Okay, so just so that you know, let's say with Giani, he's lunging and barking, right? And we did the training, but he's not stopping. Now we need to do firm consequence. And if I tell you, go to 100 and he stops, and then I come and I tell you, from now on, Giani's at 100, okay? And the collar goes to 127, just so you know, so that's very high. It's 5/6 of the power. If I come back the next week and I go, hey, how'd it go? And you go, Jesse, he was being really bad. And I go, well, how high did you go? You go 40. I go, 40 is not 100.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what happened in their case. And it happens, but if you look at all the videos, when people do the homework, they get the results. It's how it is. Okay. But it's very simple. It's very common sense based. You don't need to worry about perfect timing. You don't have to worry about treats. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Okay. As long as you get the appropriate collar, the appropriate fit, we got good contact, you should get the results. The biggest variables will be building trust with kids and socializing them with other dogs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. Should we, as far as like availability for him to start training, when would that look? Because I know we're getting him neutered on Friday.
Correct.
He needs a little time frame to
Right.
like get back to normal because we don't want to put him in that position where he's not healed.
Correct.
When would be an ideal time to schedule training with you guys?
It typically takes a dog 7 to 10 days to heal from a neutering.
Right.
Okay. Expect Giani to be normal the same day.
Yeah.
Okay. So if he's nice and like if he's jumping around and stuff, like people are like, the hell, you just got a surgery. Like dogs have a very high tolerance for pain. Okay. So you have to keep his activity low. If it rains, keep his exposure outside very limited because if moisture gets into the surgical site infection. Okay. In terms of when he can start, you can book ahead, and I would suggest that you do so because it's first come, first serve.
Right.
Maria would know my schedule. I've learned not to talk about my schedule because it changes every day. But we've had some people finish their program. She's had some people decide to save their classes because they're good on what they have. So I'll call her right now, and then she'll get in contact with you, and then she'll fill you in. And then right now we're doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but we're gonna open up most likely to Monday or Wednesday because those days are filling up. So before I used to train 7 days a week, every day. But because of COVID, I'm at my facility now for my daycare. So to make the most use out of my time, we were only doing training for 1 day. Then it got busy and became 2 days, then 3 days. Now we're going back to 4 to 5 days. And hopefully once everything goes kind of back to normal, I'll go back to like traveling to people and stuff.
Got it.
But right now it makes sense because social distancing.
Yeah.
And if we're at one space or one place, we can see more people in a day than if I traveled everywhere.
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. I think we've gotten, as far as the collar, we should purchase the collar as soon as we can, correct?
Yes. So I'm gonna do a quick some research and I'll send it to Maria. She'll send you the link. She's aware that it's sold out, so she'll be on it to get it to you. We'll send you the muzzle link. We'll send you the collar information. She'll send you the pricing again, and a form to fill out.
Okay.
You take care of that stuff. The muzzle, and take care of that today. Okay. Because you can start training. So by the time we get to that point, you've already been muzzle training for 4 to 5 weeks.
Got it.
Excuse me. A lot of people try to do like a high school project and muzzle train the day before. It does not go well. Okay. You cannot do that here. And with the muzzle, if we make good progress, it's going to make you feel better. And you're going to have more confidence, so don't feel bad. Don't worry about how people think, what they think about your dog, stuff like that. It's you being safe. And other than that, I don't think we're going to have any issues. This is I deal with this stuff all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to let us know. Maria will get in contact with you.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was a pleasure meeting everybody. And I look forward to working with Akita.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. You guys take care.
Have a good day.
You too.